Our next chapter in Sports Medicine 2 is going to be over therapeutic modalities. Now, there's a couple things that we need to cover before we get into the good stuff, but the basics of therapeutic modalities. What is modalities even referring to? A modality is going to be any object that is used to help increase somebody's ability to heal. And that can mean something as simple as using an ice bag to help decrease the edema present. All right. I bet if you sat and thought about it, you could think of several that you see us use in the athletic training room. But why do we use these? Clearly, the goal is always going to be to heal and return that athlete to play. So if we can use these modalities that help increase their ability to heal or even to return back to where they were before they were injured, or to get them done faster, is part of the reason why we use these modalities. Now, in this chapter, not only do we learn some of the modalities that we have in the athletic training room, but we also learn why we are going to pick one modality over the other. That's pretty much our bread and butter for this chapter. Now, before we talk specifics on the modalities, we have to learn about treatment goals. The rehab process is all about setting little goals, accomplishing them, and moving on to the next goal. And with athletes, you are dealing with a competitive population who most of the time they want to be back on the field. They want to be back to whatever activity it was that they are no longer able to participate in. So by using treatment goals, we help get them there. So we have short-term and long-term treatment goals. And in the modality aspect of it, the rehab aspect of it, we deal a whole lot more with the short-term goals. And using these short-term goals, they are used as motivational tools, little stair-step checklist to getting your patient back to full return to play, which is our long-term goal. So let's talk about the short-term goals. In order for a short-term goal to be effective, it needs to be very specific. What is it that you want to accomplish? Okay. What type of measurement can you use that says, yep, you've made it, nope, you didn't make it? Okay. And how long do we have in order to complete this goal? I'm sure you guys hate when your teachers give you a homework assignment and don't tell you when it's due, like you're supposed to just know when it's due. Same thing with these goals. They have to be very, very specific, and you have to come up with a time frame. And a short-term goal is usually 2 weeks or less, depending on how bad the injury is. If you're dealing with something as simple as a grade 1 or 2 ankle sprain, we're talking more like 2 to 3 days for a short-term goal, not 2 weeks. But 2 weeks is pretty good for like a surgery short-term goal. So 3 things that it has to have. It has to be able to tell you specifically what you're trying to do, like decrease swelling or increase range of motion. It has to tell you by how much, what type of measurement. I want to increase range of motion by 25 degrees. Okay, I want to decrease edema by 3 centimeters. And finally, you have to have your time frame. When are we checking this goal? When is the deadline for this athlete to have accomplished this goal in order to pass that step and move on to the next one? So I have an example here on the page, and it says the patient's goal is to decrease edema by 4 centimeters by Thursday. On Thursday, that athlete will come in, you will physically measure, and it's either a yes or a no. They've either passed it or they didn't. It's very important to have those short-term goals. So now I ask you, what happens if they don't make that short-term goal? You have a couple options. You can either lengthen the time that they have to complete it. So, okay, we didn't reach that goal by Thursday, but maybe when we come back on Monday, we're going to check again and give them a longer time. Some people also choose to decrease the goal, like 3 centimeters instead of 4. But I really don't like that. Unless you have somebody that's truly struggling emotionally and mentally to complete their stuff, you'd much rather them have a longer time frame instead of decreasing their end result. So short-term goals are very, very important because adding up, crossing off each little step with a short-term goal leads to a long-term goal accomplishment. Oh, and in our athletic population, 9 times out of 10, our long-term goal is going to be to return them to play, to get them to whatever type of activity they had before this injury. Now, in physical therapy clinics, this is completely different. You have a whole general population who is not athletes. And so their long-term goal is more like daily living activities, to be able to have a quality of life that was similar to whatever they had before this injury. So it's kind of important just to keep that in perspective. These goals are used for a variety of settings. The next time we pick back up, we're going to talk about the transfer of thermal heat. We're going to start talking about thermal modalities and get ready for some labs.